This whole story is set after the events with Granola, a couple of years later to be exact. On a day like any other, deep in Paozu Mountain, Goku was in the middle of his daily training. At that moment, the weather was serene as Goku was perfecting his fighting techniques. However, the tranquility was suddenly interrupted when a bright flash lit up the sky, something he would notice almost immediately. Following that, several mysterious portals began to appear and open up around Paozu Mountain. Goku frowned instinctively because he was alert to such an unexpected situation in the middle of his training. Because of that, Goku remained on guard as the portals continued to appear, as he had realized that those portals were emanating an unknown and powerful energy. What is all that? That was what Goku was wondering as he looked at the various portals that had appeared around the area. Due to his curious attitude, he couldn't help but go and see what it was all about. So without waiting another second, he quickly flew away from his home. It didn't take him long to reach one of the portals that had appeared, and he would stare at it to try to understand it. I think I've seen these kinds of portals before, or at least something similar. Surely it must lead somewhere else. Will it be dangerous if I find out where it takes me? Goku was quite interested about the origin of those portals, and since he didn't feel that they were a danger to him, he decided to enter that portal to see where it took him. Once he had crossed the portal, he would notice that the atmosphere was similar to that of a large cave, which seemed strange to him. On top of that, he would not sense the energy of any of his friends, which was quite strange, since he could sense the power of any of them on Earth. There was only one explanation for that, and that was that the portal had taken him to another world. I think I understand better what these things do, but why did all these portals appear out of nowhere? While Goku was thinking about it, he realized that he was not alone in that place, because he felt some energies approaching him. They were some goblins, who rushed to attack him with daggers. However, it was enough for Goku to use one of his fingers to stop them. I already thought it was strange that there was no one in this place, but I can see that they have murderous intentions, so I can't let them stay here. After saying that, Goku would hit each of the goblins that had come to attack him. After receiving those attacks, the goblins fell to the ground lifeless, as they were quite weak compared to Goku. That would surprise Goku a bit, as he didn't expect to kill them with those attacks. Oh, I'm sorry, I think I overdid it. But shortly after finishing them off, Goku would suddenly have a strange feeling in his body, as if something was changing in his powers. This was because he was experiencing his first awakening in his body, which was given to people who were able to face the enemies of the portals, better known as dungeons. This awakening calculated the amount of energy in the person to determine his rank as a hunter, which could be determined from rank E to rank S, the latter being the most powerful rank. Although at the moment it was unknown what rank had been given to Goku, since it was difficult to calculate it with his power level. Goku did not understand very well what was happening, but he could perceive that somehow his powers had been enhanced, and also that they had changed a little for him. Truly, this place is out of this world. I haven't felt anything like this, but somehow I feel like I got stronger after going through this kind of power. Goku would perform some attacks to test how much his strength had changed, realizing that his speed had been boosted. In addition to that, it seemed that his body had acquired some powers, such as summoning fire of great magnitude from his range. This would leave him impressed, as he didn't think his body had acquired those kinds of powers. I better keep investigating what else is in this place. Goku would go even deeper into that dungeon to find out what kind of enemies were in that place, as he could sense that there were murderous presences up ahead. In that way, he would encounter other creatures such as orcs, werewolves, and even lizards that walked on two legs and were large. However, these creatures did not represent a danger to Goku, who would wipe out everything in his path. Although he was not used to killing his enemies, he was forced to do so, since it was dangerous for them to come out of the portal and cause chaos in his world. And since they were creatures that didn't seem to reason, he ended up eliminating them quickly. I wonder if I will also have to take care of the other portals that appeared besides this one, since if there are creatures in each of them, it means that they can also come out of them. While Goku was wondering about that, he continued walking through the dungeon, noticing that the place didn't seem to disappear no matter how many creatures he killed. Do I have to do something special to make this place go away? It's fun to fight these things, but I don't want to get stuck in this weird place. After a while, Goku would end up coming across a giant door, which seemed to hold something important. He thought that maybe it was the end of the road, and with that he could close the portal, so he didn't hesitate to open the door. Phew! I think I'll finally be able to put an end to this. I wouldn't want to miss dinner. Once the huge door had opened, Goku would only find several statues around the place, which he found quite disappointing, since he had hoped to find a way to end the dungeon. Is this really the only thing here? A bunch of statues? Since there didn't seem to be anything interesting at first glance, Goku started to look more closely at the place, realizing that there was something written. However, it seemed to be written on a sign held by one of the statues. What is this? I think it says something important, but I don't understand what language this is in. There were several strange symbols on that stone tablet, which Goku would try to understand, but he seemed to have a hard time. After a while, those symbols seemed tedious, so he decided to look for another way. These things are more for Bulma. I thought I would just have to fight, but there are weird puzzles. As Goku prepared to leave through the giant door he had entered, it would end up closing suddenly. Apparently the place didn't want him to leave, since he hadn't done the challenge yet. Strange. It's as if this place knew I wanted to leave. At that instant, Goku's senses became alert as he felt something trying to attack him from behind. It was the statues that had figures of knights who were using their giant stone swords to attack him, as they should not allow him to escape. However, Goku would shatter the stone knight's swords, causing a strong tremor as he did so. What's wrong with these things? As Goku wondered that, the larger statue would turn its gaze towards him and stare at him intently. Goku would notice that, realizing that this statue seemed to have life in it. Are you the one in charge? Goku would ask as he started to head towards that giant statue. But the statues that had attacked earlier would again approach to hit Goku, only this time with their fists. But Goku would stop the fists of both stone statues with his bare hands. But in spite of that, the giant statue would only stare at Goku intently, without changing its expression. I don't know what's wrong with you, but you leave me no choice. A few seconds after saying that, Goku quickly smashed the statues that tried to hit him with a single kick. That would raise quite a bit of dust in that place, which gradually dissipated. And once the atmosphere calmed down, Goku would notice that the statue hadn't taken its eyes off him, even after destroying 2 of his soldiers. It doesn't seem to care about the rest of the statues. Maybe it's not quite alive. When Goku looked at the place again, he noticed that the stone tablet that was held by a statue was now more translated to him. This struck him as odd, as it was recently in a language he did not recognize. When did this thing change? As suspicious as that seemed, Goku would read what it said, as perhaps with that he could close the portal. Apparently, there were 3 important rules to pass the statue challenge, which were to kneel before God, praise God, and prove your faith before God. Otherwise, no one would be able to get out. Goku would think for a while about what he had just read, and he would come to the conclusion that the god must be that giant statue, just because it was the biggest one. I have no idea if those instructions are reliable, and the truth is that the idea of praising him doesn't appeal to me, but I don't lose anything by trying. Goku did not take long to approach the giant statue, only to then kneel down as the instructions indicated. Although since nothing was happening, Goku wondered if that was just a bad joke. Did I do something wrong? It was supposed to work. Shortly after saying that, the giant statue changed its expression to a smiling one, but one that showed quite a bit of malice. Goku thought the statue was making fun of him for what he was doing, but he just didn't care. Then that statue rose from its throne. That would allow Goku to understand that following the rules had actually worked, and now he had to follow the second rule. Okay, what's next? I think I should praise him, but I don't know how I should do it. As Goku wondered that, the statue would slowly approach him and try to crush him. Because of that, Goku stepped back to dodge it, as he still didn't want to destroy that statue. Without realizing it, Goku had ended up right where a statue with an instrument was, which was activated when it detected him nearby. Apparently, that was what he had to do to praise that giant statue, because after the musical statue was activated, he had calmed down a bit. Sure, I understand. A few seconds later, Goku quickly activated the rest of the musical statues, thus completing the second rule. That would make the giant statue return to its throne, now waiting for the third rule to be fulfilled. In the center of the place, a kind of altar appeared, where Goku was to test his faith. This looks simple, I just have to stand in the center, right? Goku said as he placed himself in the center of the place, where a flame of fire would be activated, followed by several more but of blue color. In addition to that, all the remaining statues began to approach him, but besides all that, The blue flames were going out one by one, as if on a timer. The test was clear. Goku had to hold on to that spot until the rest of the flames were extinguished. Realizing that, Goku simply smiled excitedly. Okay, this is interesting. The various statues would attack Goku with their axes and spears at the same time, while Goku would dodge their attacks with great agility, only to then smash their weapons with his own fists. This thrilled Goku, since he was not one to make riddles, he just wanted to fight. The minutes passed little by little, and Goku was destroying each one of the statues. You could see the stone heads and arms fall off their bodies, all while the blue flames were extinguished. When only one blue flame remained, Goku had finished with the statues. Only their remains were left on the floor. That did look like fun to me. When the last blue flame was finally extinguished, a blue announcement would come out in front of Goku, which congratulated him for fulfilling the conditions to become a player. Now he had to agree to become one, or else his heart would stop, or so the announcement said. Goku hadn't seen anything like this before, but he didn't like the idea of that thing doing something to his body, as he had experienced a disease in his heart some time ago. If this is the only way to close the portal that leads to this place, I guess I should do it. Besides, I don't think anything bad will happen if I accept this, right? And at that moment, Goku finally pressed the accept button, thus becoming the player of the game system, not knowing what awaited him. After Goku had managed to defeat the various creatures in the dungeon, and also pass the statue's tests, he would finally become the player of the game system. And once he had agreed to acquire that power, he would be transported out of that dungeon almost immediately. Plus, the portal would disappear as well. All of that would make Goku quite confused, as he had not understood what had happened. What the heck was that all about? While he was wondering that, Goku would take a close look at his hands in order to verify if something had really changed in him. I don't feel much different after accepting that statue deal. Shortly after that, Goku would notice that the system announcement was still in front of him, announcing that he had a daily mission, which was to complete strength training. But that was not the only thing the announcement said. It also specified that if he did not complete the daily task, he would be punished. After reading that, Goku's expression changed to a more thoughtful one, as he had no idea what kind of punishment he could give him. Whatever the punishment is, I shouldn't worry. But on the other hand, I shouldn't underestimate this thing either. Despite all the doubts he had had at that moment, Goku simply began to stretch, as he planned to complete that training mission. But I can't say no to training, that really interests me. In that way, Goku would accept the mission, which specified that he had to do a specific amount of certain exercises. In addition to running a certain distance, it seemed to be something simple, as it only asked him to do 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 sit-ups, and finally run 10 kilometers. This was really simple for Goku, but it should be clarified that this would only be at the beginning, since someone like him should have higher level missions. Once he reviewed the details of the training, Goku set out to complete it all at once. Alright, let's do it! In just an instant, Goku began to perform those exercises quickly, starting with the 100 push-ups, which he performed even with just one finger. It didn't take him long to complete them, since that wasn't even a warm-up for him. After the push-ups, he started with the sit-ups and squats, which he also did with great speed. And finally, he would finish the mission to run the 10 kilometers in an instant. As Goku had speed beyond imagination, this really had been quite simple for Goku, but he didn't give much importance to that, as his goal was only to complete the mission to see what happened. Shortly after completing the mission, he could see how the system opened up almost immediately in front of him, showing that he had leveled up, as well as showing his attributes of strength, agility, perception, intelligence, and vitality. Each category had quite high numbers, due to the great strength that Goku had in each aspect mentioned, with the exception of intelligence. All that information would make Goku feel quite confused, as it was too many words for him. The truth is that this part confuses me a little, but I think I can understand what it's for. After analyzing the system for a couple of minutes, Goku would realize that he had acquired a good amount of points for leveling up, which he could use to raise his attributes. Will it really make a difference if I make some of my attributes go up with these points? There was only one way Goku could check what he had just said, and that was to raise some of his attributes with those points. So he would raise his strength to see what would happen. The instant he did that, his muscles tensed a little, because his body was getting a little stronger, which he noticed right away. This was something that Goku could not believe. This strange system helped him to become stronger doing what he liked the most, which was training and fighting different opponents. Wow, this is better than I expected. Now that I know I can get stronger with this thing, it doesn't seem as bad as it did a while ago. Goku would stare at his stats for a couple of minutes, wondering if those numbers would change if he raised his power. I think it is necessary to check if my true strength has not been affected. At that instant, Goku would take a position to concentrate, only to then release all his energy at once, causing the whole place to shake for a few moments. Goku had done this to transform into his Super Saiyan form, in order to check if the system could detect when his strength level increased, and when he looked at his stats again, he realized that it was indeed as he thought, since the numbers of his stats had also risen along with his transformation. This meant that there was really no limit to his transformations, and that he was free to use the advantages of that game system. I wonder how far I can go with this. While Goku was quite excited about what that game system was offering him, he realized that they were also giving him a reward for doing the mission, and he could choose between only 3 of them. The options were Total Recovery, which was in charge of making him recover from fatigue and his wounds instantly. The second was that the numbers of one of his attributes would go up by a certain amount, while the third option gave him a random item. Since Goku didn't feel any kind of fatigue from training, nor did he want to gain points just like that, he would opt to receive some random item as his reward. I guess that's the only option I can claim for now. After selecting the random item reward, a small box appeared in Goku's hand. The box slowly opened as it emitted a bit of light, revealing that it was a key, which was to open a special dungeon. Goku was a little disappointed at first, as he thought he might get something to eat, but he would keep that key anyway. I guess I can't complain, since it gives me a chance to keep fighting to get stronger. After he had put the key away, Goku would stand looking around, realizing there were still portals all along the Paozu Mountains. It was clear that he had to take care of that, so he simply stretched a bit before starting, as he was ready to fight. Alright, this isn't going to resolve itself, so I must begin. In that way, Goku would begin his raid again, in order to make all those portals that roamed his world disappear. Each one of those portals housed different creatures, which had different kinds of difficulties. However, Goku's overwhelming strength was more than enough to sweep away any dungeon he entered, whether they were werewolves, lizards, armored snakes, or even stone titans. Goku would smash them all with his fists. But even if his opponents weren't that strong, the dungeons still gave him plenty of fun, since he could fight as much as he wanted. By completing the dungeons, Goku's level would increase more and more, giving him more points to raise his stats even higher. Because he did not fully understand how the system worked, Goku would also increase his intelligence points, which gave him the ability to better understand what the interface of the game system meant. Each enemy he defeated not only helped him to add levels to the system, but also gave him items that they left behind after being defeated, such as fangs, used daggers, or even the skin of some beasts. This could be used to sell them for gold, which was used in a kind of virtual store of that system. Since Goku used to fight with his fists, he didn't really need those items, so he simply sold them, since they were things in bad shape anyway and it was the only thing he could do with them. But as if that wasn't enough, when defeating creatures, he received special bonuses, such as having 40% more strength against creatures, or even paralyzing opponents temporarily whenever he wanted. Of course, using some of these abilities consumed a bit of his vitality, but it was nothing that affected him, since Goku had pretty high stats, and after he had finished with the various portals that had appeared that day, Goku would simply return back to his world again after defeating the dungeon boss. That was fun, but I think that's enough for today. At that, he would realize that it really hadn't been long since he started entering the portals, which seemed odd to him, since he had just gone to several to make the portals disappear. Because his intelligence attribute had been raised, he would come to the conclusion that time worked differently inside those dungeons. This is all too beneficial for me. I'm suspicious who would create something like this. First, that stone plaque was in a language I didn't understand, but from one moment to the next, I could understand what it said. Those kinds of questions had Goku a little doubtful, but he couldn't do much to find out the origin of that system either, because the dungeons he had gone to always disappeared at the end, and there were nothing but simple creatures. Well, for now I think I'll go warn the others about this. After saying that, Goku began to sense the key of the others, in order to find out which one was closest to him, in order to warn them about the portals that appeared out of nowhere. The closest one at that moment was Piccolo, so Goku would use teleportation to reach him. In that way, he appeared right in front of Piccolo, who was surprised to notice his arrival. But Goku's expression changed to one of confusion when he saw that the system marked Piccolo with a kind of white hue around him, indicating that he was a weak subject compared to him. But despite that, he would simply salute him. "Hi Piccolo, good to see you." "It's strange that you come all this way on your own. Something must be going on, right?" "As always, you're so perceptive, Piccolo. But you're right. Did you notice strange portals appearing?" "Actually, yes. While meditating, I could sense a strange feeling. So I went to investigate in one of them to find out what it was all about." "So you already know what's inside those places, right?" "That's right. There are different creatures in there, but nothing I couldn't defeat." "And you didn't happen to run into any giant statues in there?" Piccolo was a little confused by his question, since he hadn't encountered anything like what he had just mentioned. "Not really. There were only creatures in that place, and the portal disappeared when I finished off some sort of sand giant. However, I also noticed that those portals haven't stopped appearing. There are always new ones popping up." "I see. But at the end of the path, you didn't get some kind of message from an intelligent interface either?" "Not really, although I did have a strange feeling when I entered, as if something had changed in my strength, but nothing more than that happened." From what he had just heard, Goku would understand that he was the only one who had been given that level system. That way, Goku would explain to Piccolo about the system he had been given by those statues, as well as how that skill interface worked. Piccolo would be quite confused with what Goku had told him, as he didn't think something like that could exist. Piccolo would be quite confused about what he had told him, since he didn't think something like that could exist. "If those portals come from another world, it means that someone from there gave you that special power, but I'm not an expert on that subject. Maybe you can ask someone else." "Very well, then I'll have to continue to find out the origin of this. But for now, don't let your guard down. Do what that thing tells you. We don't know what kind of punishments you might suffer." "Sure, Piccolo. I'll keep that in mind." In this way, Goku would leave the place flying, since after listening to Piccolo, he was clear that he had to follow the instructions of the system. For that reason, he planned to use the key from the beginning to go to the dungeon he had been entrusted with. Now that Goku understood better how the dungeon system worked, he would follow Piccolo's advice about following the instructions given to him. Since being something from another world, it was better to avoid any kind of punishment that the system could give to his body. For that very reason, Goku had decided to go and use the key he had been given in one of his rewards, which was for his special dungeon. It didn't take him long to reach the entrance of the dungeon, which was located in a forest full of trees. In that place, there was a small lock surrounded by a kind of transparent wall, where the key had to be placed in order to access the special dungeon. "It seems that this is simple. I just have to put the key there, right?" While Goku began to place the key to open the dungeon, the system would indicate that in that place there were no creatures like before, but they were of S rank. Because Goku had increased his intelligence thanks to the points of the system, he would understand that they were stronger creatures, which only excited him even more, since he wanted to check how powerful they could be. "If the system is telling the truth, it means that this enemy is stronger than all those creatures I faced before. I hope it's worth it." After having said that, he would enter the special dungeon while stretching a bit. The system would alert him that he had entered a special dungeon, and shortly after that, the entrance would close. The entrance would only reopen after defeating the boss of that dungeon, which didn't bother Goku as he just wanted to fight. The place seemed to be full of fire and there were several debris around. It was as if the place had been totally destroyed by some creature. Goku was watching the place carefully, because the perception ability that the system gave him helped him to perceive the boss of the dungeon. "So there you are," Goku said as he realized that the dungeon boss was behind him. It was a giant three-headed canine, better known as Cerberus, the guardian that protected the entrance to the underworld. Goku would turn around to look directly at it, surprised by its appearance, as it seemed quite striking to him. "You are definitely different from the others I defeated." That creature didn't seem to give much importance to what Goku was saying, since all he was thinking about was attacking him, since he considered him as an intruder. Because of that, Goku quickly got into combat position in order to be ready to receive its attack. "Attack with everything!" That three-headed beast quickly tried to stomp on Goku with all its power, as it didn't want to give him a chance to attack. That would cause a strong tremor in that place in ruins, but to the surprise of that beast,
Goku had stopped with his own hands that stomp that he had tried to give him. Wow, that was an interesting attack. Shortly after that, Goku lifted the beast from its legs, sending it flying through the destroyed buildings of the dungeon. This seemed to have caused damage to the creature from the impact, so it felt extremely furious with Goku. Come on, don't tell me that's the best you can do! At that instant, the creature would give a loud roar to activate its Enrage ability to increase all of its stats by an extra 100%, becoming even stronger. But apparently it didn't just get stronger, as suddenly the system would warn Goku that the creature had become immune to physical attacks for a while. This would surprise Goku, as apparently the system's warning was serious. Because the portals belong to other worlds, Goku is now also affected by the rules of such abilities there. This was mostly because the system was testing Goku to see what he could do against these situations. The three-headed beast came back at Goku more aggressively, trying to bite him with each of its jaws. Goku would hit it with one of his punches, but it seemed that the creature resisted his attack. However, even if the physical attacks were ineffective, he was still much faster than the beast, so he avoided its attacks easily. This situation reminded him a bit of when he faced one of Babidi's minions, specifically the warrior known as Yakon, since on the occasion Goku could not transform into Super Saiyan because his ability was to absorb light. I didn't think these dungeons would have so many surprises, but it makes it interesting. At that instant, Goku just smiled excitedly and took a big leap in the air as he began to charge a powerful energy attack, being the Kamehameha. Hitting is not my only advantage, I have more than one way to deal with my opponents. Cerberus would try to make a big jump to reach Goku before the end of the attack, but it was too late, because in that instant there would be a big flash, because Goku was ready to finish him off. And in just an instant, Goku's Kamehameha shot out towards the creature, impacting squarely against the large Cerberus and easily pulverizing it. That would cause a huge explosion all over the place, causing the surrounding buildings to end up shattering completely. When everything calmed down, the system would give him the notice that he had defeated Cerberus, which had made him go up several levels. But not only that, as he had also acquired some materials on his behalf. Among them, he had been given another special key, which was to enter the castle that Cerberus was guarding. They had even given him an item that increased Goku's abilities by an extra 20% when equipped. And as a final reward, they had also given him a very special formula, which was used to make something called the Elixir of Life, which could cure any disease. The items to make this elixir were found in the Demon's Castle, which was a place of similar difficulty. Goku was now aware that the portals would sometimes test him to fight in different ways, as that creature had become resistant to physical attacks, as if it were a game's own limitation. It's just as Piccolo said, this world is run by its own rules, which in this case seemed to affect me as well. While Goku was thinking about that, he would open the system interface to raise his points again. As usual, he would raise his strength and agility, but a part of his points would also go to his intelligence, in order to continue to better understand the advantages of the game system. Once he finished raising his points, the system would give him another alert, allowing him to understand that he had reached the sufficient level to change class, so he could perform a special dungeon to acquire a special ability, depending on what he obtained. Goku was determined to complete that dungeon, as he didn't want to be overconfident if he was limited like he was against that creature. I'd better start leveling up. At that instant, he would use the teleportation stone to leave the dungeon immediately, causing the portal to close. Once that was done, the system would tell him where to go to access the dungeon that would allow him to change classes to learn a new skill. I feel like I'm advancing pretty fast. Maybe that's why the system can test me even more, but it doesn't matter. I'll get through this. Goku quickly began to fly to where the system was telling him to go, in order to complete the class change dungeon at once. But while he was taking care of that, the other normal portals around the city were being purged by Vegeta himself, who had also experienced an awakening after discovering the portals, so he was also taking care of the ones that had appeared. Although he did not have the power of the system, he had also acquired some abilities by being classified as a fighter in his awakening, and after a while of flying, Goku would finally arrive at the place that the system marked. Almost immediately, the interface would ask him if he really wanted to do the class change dungeon, since they were Class A enemies. Goku only smiled to show that he accepted the challenge. So without hesitation, he accepted the mission. Sure, let's give it our all. After having accepted, a large portal of purple and dark tones opened before him, being bigger than the portals he had entered before. This would surprise him a bit, but Goku entered the portal anyway to face whatever was on the other side. Once through the portal, he would find himself in a sort of rather long hallway of a castle, in which there didn't seem to be anything. But immediately Goku realized with his perception ability that there was something nearby, a knight, who seemed to be alone, as he couldn't see more of his kind around. The knight began to fence with his sword to attack when he realized that Goku was an intruder. Upon observing that, Goku didn't even give him a second to attack the knight, as he instantly lunged to shatter his armor with a single impact of his fists. This he had done to check if his punches were not limited as before, but apparently everything was normal, as he had finished off that knight easily. This would cheer Goku up a bit, as he was pleased to know that he could fight his own way. Great! Now I can warm up more! Suddenly, the system would alert him that he had acquired the knight armor, which could be equipped on his body to reduce the amount of physical damage by 8%. At first, Goku wasn't sure if he should use something like this, as he didn't like the idea of wearing armor to fight. However, Goku would equip it to see if it really was as uncomfortable as he thought it would be. Upon equipping it, he would find that the armor was actually transparent, which pleased Goku, as he didn't have to look like one of those armored knights. Besides that, it apparently didn't affect his speed at all, since it didn't feel heavy at all to him. This is really cool! I don't mind this armor at all, and it also gives me advantages. The system really thinks of everything. While he was excited about the advantages of the system, several more knights would approach him to attack him, as they could not allow him to go any further into the castle. But Goku would only clash his fists together, showing that he was ready to fight the knights. Alright, everyone come and get me! All the knights began to rush at once against Goku, using their heavy swords to try to finish him off. Alright, everyone come and get me! All the knights began to throw themselves at once against Goku, using their heavy swords to try to finish him off. However, none of their blows would hit Goku, because he was too agile for them. But since Goku didn't want to waste time with those knights, he would smash the heads of the knights with a single blow, leaving them totally defeated. Although after he defeated them, more of those knights would appear in front of him. However, this only motivated Goku to continue, as he wanted to see what awaited him ahead. This is going to be fun! After Goku took care of defeating the first armed knights that had appeared in his path, suddenly, even more appeared in that place. But that had only excited Goku, who began to walk slowly towards them. That's the way I like it! Don't give up so soon! Said Goku while keeping a cheerful smile on his face, as this was getting interesting for him. The soldiers once again lunged to attack him, raising their heavy swords to try to cut him down. But Goku would simply, with the power of his aura, make the knights' attacks stop before they could impact against him. And a couple of seconds later, Goku would shatter them with a spinning kick, taking care of all of them with a single impact. I must admit that you are persistent. Several of you keep coming. After saying that, Goku would notice something strange. It was as if there was one more presence besides the knights, but he couldn't see it directly. However, even though Goku couldn't see it, he could perceive its movements perfectly, so he quickly gave the invisible assassin a good blow. As soon as he received that blow, the assassin's ability had been deactivated, and he ended up completely knocked to the ground. The reason why he had not been able to see him at first was because that assassin was using his stealth ability, which allowed him to be imperceptible for a certain amount of time, although he could be perceived by people who had good perception, like Goku. I didn't think these gentlemen had that kind of ability as well. When Goku was about to continue on his way to the castle, suddenly the system would send him an alert that he had acquired the stealth ability after defeating the assassin. This seemed interesting to Goku, as it was an ability that could prove useful, at least if he used it correctly. But Goku would not be allowed to rest for a second, as shortly thereafter an energy attack was directed towards him. However, in just a matter of seconds, Goku reacted to that attack, easily dodging it. The one who had been responsible for that was nothing more and nothing less than a magician, which was characterized by using spells and attacking from a distance. Although it would not be the only enemy that would appear, since in a short time more assassins with stealth skills arrived. as well as archers that supported the mage from a distance. Because they knew that Goku was a powerful opponent, all the assassins present used their stealth skills at the same time to attack Goku in a coordinated manner, looking for an opening in their attacks. Meanwhile, the archers were firing arrows in case Goku tried to evade the assassin's attacks, while the mage would charge another energy flash in case all else failed. Goku felt some respect for the coordination of those enemies, but even so, he would respond in kind. "You guys fight well, so I'll show you more than just my punches." At that instant, Goku placed his hands on his head as he was about to use one of his abilities, and in just an instant, he released a powerful flash of light, which would totally stun all the enemies before they could finish approaching him. This was because Goku had used a Kaioken ability, which served to blind the enemies. A couple of minutes later, the effect of the Kaioken would gradually fade, and the enemies would realize that Goku was not in the place, or at least they could not see him. But at that very moment, several of the assassins using the stealth ability would be hit by something they had not been able to sense, and would be instantly eliminated. After the assassins, the archers followed, who were shattered by a strong impact that had even pierced the ground. Now only the mage was left, who with his spells would realize that it was Goku who was using the stealth ability to test it against them. But as soon as he realized that, it was too late, as Goku was right in front of him and would be defeated with a single kick to the head. Now that I've just used it, I realize that this ability is more than just moving at high speed. I actually become imperceptible to those who don't have enough perception. Once all the enemies had been defeated, Goku continued walking through the castle, looking to see what lay ahead. It didn't take long, though, before he came upon a large door at the end of the castle's corridor. It was a door that looked important, so surely there must have been a stronger enemy coming through the door. That's why Goku didn't think twice and opened the door to see what kind of opponent was waiting for him. Upon entering, he would notice that there was a large room, where a completely empty throne also remained. But in addition to all that, the huge chandelier on the ceiling suddenly burst into flames, along with the other candles that were scattered throughout the room. And to top it all off, there was a knight in crimson armor who carried a large sword to defend that empty throne. Due to the system, Goku had confirmed that he was indeed stronger than the other enemies, as his ranking was different. That knight was known as Igris, the Crimson Knight. "You are the boss of this place, aren't you?" The knight, instead of answering him, simply approached Goku slowly to better appreciate him, and stopped as soon as he felt there was enough distance between them to raise his sword to point it at Goku. It was clear that he was challenging him to a duel, as he didn't plan to let it go all the way to the throne. Goku realized that the Knight Igris had more personality unlike the other knights and mages he had defeated, as he behaved like an honorable warrior. "You look like someone more interesting than the other knights, so I'll take it upon myself to make the fight last a little longer." The knight just stared intently at Goku, because he could sense that he too was a warrior who liked battle as much as he did. Therefore, he decided to make the first move, launching himself rather quickly at Goku while wielding his great sword. Goku quickly blocked his attack, which had been so powerful that it had caused the pillars in that room to be destroyed as if nothing had happened. Although that move did not have the power to damage him, Goku realized the great ability that the Knight Igris had. Besides that, with that simple move, Goku had realized how much it meant to Igris to defend that place, since he was fighting with all his ability. That was exactly why he planned to keep fighting him, to honor the way he fought. Igris retreated a little after his attack was blocked, but he would again make several thrusts with his sword, trying to hit one of his attacks against Goku. But instead of dodging them, Goku blocked with his hands each of the attacks that Igris made with his sword, which caused the place to continue to be destroyed a little more by the force of the impacts. It seemed that Igris did not plan to stop, as his will to fight was not affected at all. What he wanted was to fight with everything as long as he could stand up. Goku felt respect for the battle spirit that Igris showed, for even in the face of the difference in strength, he did not falter at all. "You don't fight badly at all. The truth is that in the dungeons I hadn't come across someone who had a great combat ability like yours. At least not until now." Goku had said that while blocking all the movements of Igris' sword, who didn't stop attacking while listening to Goku's words. A couple of seconds later, Igris raised his sword with more strength, and would give a powerful blow with the sword against Goku, but it would be blocked by the latter. The impact of such a heavy blow would send Igris flying backwards. but he would manage to cling to the floor to stop himself before crashing against one of the walls of the room. The place would be silent for a few moments, in which the knight Igris was getting back up firmly, as he still had to continue. Goku just kept smiling while looking at the knight, as he liked his determined attitude. You know, under other circumstances, I'm sure you would be a formidable opponent. It's a pity that our power difference is abysmal. As Goku continued to speak, he would slowly begin to raise his power, causing the surrounding debris to begin to rise. But I feel it's unfair that you're fighting with everything while I'm holding back. So before this fight is over, let me show you more of my strength. Igris the Knight stood listening to Goku as he took a couple of steps towards him, due to the fact that he had intentions of continuing the battle. There was no doubt that Igris' will was too strong to not continue despite seeing the strength of his opponent. For that very reason, Goku decided to show him a part of his true strength, and would raise his power all at once, since he did not want to defeat Igris without him seeing what he was capable of. And almost instantly, Goku's aura gave off a strong flash on the spot, making it a little difficult to see him properly. Once that flash had faded, one could see Goku transformed into Super Saiyan, being ready to end this fight. Igris' hair was only pushed a little by the aura that Goku released, being a clear sign of how powerful the Saiyan was. "Alright, attack me with everything you've got, Igris," said Goku with a more determined tone, since this time he was planning to attack him with force. Igris didn't take long to accept that challenge, and quickly lunged with his sword, but this time he planned to use all his strength in that last attack. When he was close enough to Goku, he would give several large slashes against Goku, which were so strong and fast that they cut even the walls of the room and the pillars that remained as if they were paper, besides raising a lot of dust in the place. But Goku would come out amidst all the dust, as the cuts could be seen only bouncing off his body. Before the knight Igris could react, he would be received by a powerful and swift blow from Goku, who had propelled himself to hit him right in his stomach, completely destroying that area and sending Igris flying against the debris. That would leave him totally defeated, since that blow from the transformed Goku was too strong. You fought quite well, Igris. After defeating him, Goku would get more rewards that were worth quite a bit of gold, plus a special helmet that reduced all physical damage by 20% more when used, and also further increased his stats, so without hesitation, he would equip it. Although he had also received another red skill stone along with the stone to get out of the dungeon, but suddenly the system alerted him that the real mission would begin now. Suddenly, the system alerted him that the real mission was beginning now, and he had to endure as long as possible while waves of enemies kept coming endlessly. Several portals appeared out of nowhere, unleashing knights and wizards who summoned more of their kind. Goku clenched his fists at the sight of so many enemies, ready to take them all down seriously. With a powerful surge of energy and aura, he quickly obliterated almost all the knights and wizards in the area, reducing them to dust instantly. Yet, more of them kept appearing, but Goku didn't mind. He continued defeating each one that came his way, hour after hour. He spent the following hours demolishing knights and wizards, without leaving any survivors. After defeating them all, Goku returned to his base state, and the system notified him that he had completed the mission. It offered him the option to accept a new class known as necromancer, a hidden class according to the system. I don't really know much about these classes, but I guess I can't progress without accepting it. Besides, I'd really like to leave this place now. Without much thought, Goku accepted the class change. Suddenly, a dark aura surrounded him as he gained new abilities and leveled up significantly from eliminating so many enemies. The system bestowed upon him the title of King of Shadows. This seemed a bit odd to Goku, as the dark aura made him appear somewhat malevolent. It's not really my style, but I suppose I'll have to get used to it. After saying that, Goku began to hear what seemed like lamenting voices emanating from the remains of the defeated knights. The system informed Goku that he could now use an ability to extract shadows from defeated enemies by typing the word he wanted to invoke the ability with. Goku thought for a moment, wanting to keep it simple. Alright, to keep it simple, I'll invoke this ability with the word Arise. After typing the word, the ability was registered with that name. shadows from the fallen knights began to awaken and approach Goku, now following his commands. Initially unsure about having obedient shadows, Goku considered how they might be useful in the future. Knowing that defeated enemies could return as shadows, he looked towards the body of Igris among the debris. Goku thought he might be able to bring him back as one of his shadow warriors, so he approached to attempt it immediately. Arise! It seemed that Igris' shadow was about to be extracted, but initially, it resisted as it remained loyal to its duty of defending the empty throne. The system warned Goku that he had only 3 attempts to extract someone's shadow, having already used 1. Determined, Goku persisted, knowing Igris was a formidable fighter. You fulfilled your duty here. Perhaps you could use your great skill to keep fighting instead of staying here. As Goku spoke, he tried again to extract Igris' shadow, which seemed more willing this time, convinced by Goku's words. This time, I promise it will be different. You might even become stronger. Finally, Goku acquired the shadow of the Crimson Knight, now the new commander of his shadow army, known as Igris. The system did something unusual with Igris' shadow, reflecting Goku's power within it, much to Goku's surprise. Afterward, all the Shadow Knights kneeled before Goku, now awaiting the commands of the King of Shadows. Goku had finally cleared the Class Change dungeon, gaining new powers and becoming the new King of Shadows. Having completed the trial, the dungeon portal closed, returning him outside. Now, he had at his disposal several Shadow Soldiers, with Igris being the most powerful among them. However, the system had done something peculiar by allowing Igris to share Goku's power, making him equally formidable, a fact Goku noticed from the energy and the system's categorization. Can he really match my strength? I have to test this. Goku ordered Igris to engage in a brief sparring match to verify the system's claim. They assumed combat stances and exchanged powerful blows, causing a significant impact with their fist clash. Goku held nothing back, wanting to truly gauge their power. After the exchange, Goku realized that Igris had indeed withstood his punch, just as he had weathered Igris' attack. This revelation amazed him, knowing Igris could now unleash his full potential as a warrior and train alongside him. After their short bout, Goku dismissed the Shadow Soldiers, since he didn't need them at the moment, now that the dungeon was over. I better head home. Feels like I've been away for too long, even though time flows differently in those dungeons. With that, Goku quickly flew away to return to his home on Mount Paozu. Upon arrival, he noticed the presence of his friends inside. Gohan was there with Vegeta, Piccolo, Krillin, Tyen, Yamcha, and others like Bulma and Chi-Chi, gathered meeting to discuss the emergence of several portals. Finally decided to show up, Kakarot. You're always late, Goku. Can someone tell me why everyone's gathered here? Seriously? Haven't you noticed the portals popping up near the cities? But you don't need to raise your voice so much. I've also taken care of dealing with those portals. That's not the point, Kakarot, since we've all been taking care of making those things disappear. Vegeta is right. We are here to find out if these portals have any origin, since we are not sure that they can appear more, which could be dangerous for the inhabitants of Earth. I already explained to them what you told me about the system, that only you can see. That's why we wanted to know if you have noticed anything useful to stop this. Hearing that, Goku paused to think about the situation, but he couldn't come to a conclusion because he didn't know much about why those portals had appeared either. Meanwhile, Vegeta seemed somewhat annoyed, as Goku always seemed to have something as peculiar as that system Piccolo had mentioned. I understand what you're saying, but there's not much I can say about the portals. At this point, Goku would remember the first dungeon he had entered, so he decided to ask his friend something. If it's true that you all have also faced different portals, can you tell me if you have seen any dungeons with giant stone statues? All the Z-Warriors made a confused face when they heard Goku's question, as they hadn't seen anything like that when going through the dungeons. Not really, there were only strange creatures, nothing like what you describe. Same here, I didn't come across any statues either. Little by little, each of the Z-Warriors answered negatively to Goku's question, indicating that he was the only one who had been lucky enough to come across such a peculiar place. Due to the answers of the others, Piccolo began to shuffle different conclusions, as this data could be crucial to understand what was going on. So only Goku has seen that place. It could be the origin of those portals.
So, should we keep looking inside each portal?
I don't think so. We've visited many and haven't seen anything like that.
I think the most reasonable thing would be for Dad to accompany us. Maybe he's the only one who can access that place, or at least find something useful. Gohan's proposal makes sense to me. Goku often runs into this kind of thing, so something might come up when he enters one of these portals.
What they were saying made a lot of sense to Goku, so he wouldn't refuse their participation in the dungeons with him.
Alright then, we'll go out at the next portal that comes up. Then you'll need this to locate the portals more easily.
At that moment, Bulma brought out a radar similar to the one used to locate the Dragon Balls, only this one was specifically designed to show the direction of the portals whenever they appeared. This surprised Goku, as he didn't expect Bulma to create something like this in just a couple of days.
Did you really manage to make a portal radar in such a short time? It wasn't that complicated. Portals emit a special frequency that allows them to be detected. You know what I'm like.
Bulma said this cheerfully, proud of herself and her intelligence. The rest of the Z-Warriors agreed, so while they waited, they took the opportunity to rest and prepare for the battle ahead. The truth was that they had all noticed that Goku sounded smarter than usual during that conversation, probably because his intelligence stat had increased as he leveled up. Although they didn't think much of it for the moment, they needed to focus on their upcoming battle. The next day, they immediately set out to locate the next portal, which appeared right away on the radar Bulma had provided them. They quickly flew to its location. Upon arrival, they noticed that this portal looked different. While all the previous ones had been shades of blue and dark, this one was red, with several lightning bolts swirling around it.
I've never seen one like this before. Have you?
Never. This is the first time. Never mind. Let's not waste time. Let's take care of whatever's in there.
Although the portals have been easy for us so far, we shouldn't take it lightly.
Right. We still don't know what might be inside. We've only seen part of it. Fine. Let's do it your way if you're so insistent. After their brief discussion, they entered the red portal to begin their mission. Inside, they found themselves in a snowy expanse, much larger than the cave-like dungeons they had encountered before. It seemed strange to the others, but they thought nothing of it. However, Vegeta soon noticed energies approaching. Prepare yourselves. Something is approaching. Everyone turned their attention to the approaching figures, which turned out to be a pack of large, ferocious bears. Although these enemies did not seem threatening to the warriors, they remained alert.
Looks like they're just ordinary beasts.
Alright then, leave this to me. Some meat for cooking wouldn't hurt. With that said, Vegeta quickly surrounded his hand with red energy, a new ability he had awakened after encountering the portals. Goku was surprised to see this, unaware that Vegeta had also gained new powers.
Vegeta, you mean to tell me that you've gained powers too?
That's right, Kakarot. You're not the only one who has obtained more strength, and now I'll show you what I'm capable of. After having said that, Vegeta simply punched the air and would release a large figure of his own fist, which would in an instant finish off all the giant bears that were in front of him. But the impact had been so powerful that it had completely pulverized them, so there was nothing left of them.
I think you went a little overboard with them.
Too bad. They're all still as weak as in the other portals.
Apparently so, but even so, that place is still quite large unlike the others.
It will be better to find the strongest of them all. After having used his ability, Vegeta was a little curious as to what kind of powers Goku had acquired, since he was sure that they had different powers, since they had always been like that. Tell me the truth, Kakaroto. Did the system give you something special?
Now that you mention it, yes. I don't think I've shown it to you, so take a look for yourselves.
At that instant, Goku was enveloped in a dark aura as he was summoning the various shadow soldiers he had, Igris being the most prominent among them all. Everyone would immediately notice that Igris possessed strength equal to Goku, which left them shocked. Although because of that, everyone became alert, as they didn't know if this knight was on their side. Even so, everyone became alert, as they didn't know if that knight was on their side.
Calm down. This warrior here only obeys what I say. He is not a threat.
Are you sure about that? And why does that specter have the same strength as you?
Well, I'm not sure, but I think it's an advantage of the system. You don't need to worry. Well, maybe he'll be useful at some point, but I didn't expect you to have such an ability, since you always fight on your own, Dad. To be honest, I didn't expect it either, but at least this gives this soldier another chance to fight. Once they finished talking, they all continued exploring that huge snowy place in order to find the strongest being in the area, or rather, in other words, the boss of the portal. As they advanced, they kept encountering more of those giant bears, but they defeated them easily. However, along their way, they saw a considerable number of enemies on one of the hills, forming a complete army, but they seemed to be a kind of intelligent creatures since they were riding horses. Because of that, they all got into combat positions, aiming to eliminate the army of what seemed to be the dungeon boss. However, the leader of all of them approached to speak some words. Not all of you are humans, but if you interfere, we will attack.
Only Goku could understand their language thanks to the system, so we might be able to get a clue about the origin of the portals and the creatures that always appeared in their world.
We have noticed that you have eliminated several of those giant bears. It shows that you are not ordinary warriors. This is the first time I can hear one of you. Can you also understand what I'm saying? Don't tell me you can talk to that thing, Kakarot! Since Goku has access to that strange power, it's not hard for me to believe. Anyway, they don't look very friendly, so before you kill them, try to find out something.
Goku heeded his companion's words, and at that moment he spoke again to leader Baruka.
What brought you here? Why do you attack our world relentlessly? I don't have to answer your questions, although I might consider it if you defeat one of my soldiers, who is eager to fight against you.
After saying that, one of Baruka's soldiers began approaching him, eager to fight the intruders first. Because of this, Goku explained to the others that the leader of that army wanted them to fight one of his subordinates to reveal what he knew. So, once they knew this, Baruka's subordinate was immediately hit by an energy blast from Vegeta, leaving him completely pulverized. This was because Vegeta didn't want to waste his time with such weak enemies, so he sped things up for Baruka to say what he knew. On the other hand, Goku was surprised to see what Vegeta did, as he didn't expect him to act so suddenly.
Stop fooling around and speak already. It wasn't necessary to act so impatiently, Vegeta. You might scare him and prevent him from telling us what he knows.
After seeing that, Baruka's expression changed to one of surprise, as he didn't expect those warriors' abilities to be so powerful. But instead of getting agitated, he simply began to smile maliciously.
Just as I thought. You are much more interesting than I expected. You have truly amazed me, so I will keep my word. It seems he's going to talk for real now. He better, or else he'll be next.
As Baruka looked at each of the warriors, he proceeded to give his response as part of his deal.
The truth is, I don't really know why we are in this world. All I can tell you is that there is a voice in our heads that forces us to kill humans. However, in this case, that voice does not order me to kill all of you, as apparently not all of you are human.
Baruka's words made Goku think for a moment, as apparently, even he didn't know the exact reason why they were there. They were just following orders from someone else. Shortly after, Goku explained this to the others to make them understand the situation, as they couldn't understand Baruka's language.
That voice he talks about might also be limiting their thoughts and memories. That must be why they don't know why they are here.
If there is someone above all this, then this place won't give us much information. I think you've talked enough. The point is that we can't let you leave here. We only have orders to attack humans, so the rest of you can choose to withdraw from the battle if you want.
That's not going to happen. We have no reason to leave this place if your intention is to harm humans.
Very well. Then all this talk has been a good waste of time.
After saying that, Baruka's army fired several arrows at all the warriors to start the confrontation. However, all that rain of arrows stopped before hitting any of them, as if a force field protected them. Baruka was astonished by what he was seeing, as it wasn't a shield or something similar. What protected them from the arrows was their own power, which was so overwhelming that their weapons couldn't harm them.
Is that all you can do? Since they have shown that they don't want to yield, I'm afraid we will have to finish them off right here. Leave it to me. I haven't fully tested my abilities yet, and maybe this is the opportunity.
I guess it will be an opportunity to see how much that system you talked about benefits you. After saying that, Goku didn't take long to summon his best summon again, the Great Commander Igris. Goku planned to use only him to eliminate Baruka's army. This offended Baruka, as it seemed that Goku and the others didn't take them seriously.
What disrespect towards us Hyakis! That's why we will have no consideration now.
Baruka raised one of his hands to signal his entire army to attack simultaneously. Due to this action, the system charged Goku with the mission to exterminate each of the enemies, as they had murderous intentions. However, despite the system's warning, none of the Z-Warriors moved one bit, as Igris would take care of it. Thanks to the system, Igris had the ability to share the same strength as Goku to be useful in combat. When the entire army of creatures was close enough, Igris raised his great sword, only to envelop it in energy, and with a single swipe of his mighty sword, he unleashed a massive slash around the entire Baruka army, sweeping everything in his path with that great attack. The rest of the Z-Warriors were stunned to see the capabilities of the Knight Igris, who was now making the most of his abilities by sharing Goku's power. Due to Igris' great attack, a large amount of snow and dust rose up, making it difficult for Baruka to see what had happened at that moment. But when all the snow began to fall, he could only see how his entire army had been annihilated with a single attack, leaving him completely alone now.
This can't be possible. Are we Hyakis really so insignificant compared to these guys?
Baruka wondered as he began to reject such an idea, so he unsheathed his daggers to be the next to fight. The others merely watched as he prepared to attack, but seemed to have no intention of moving.
No! No! I refuse to accept it! The leader of the Hyakis can't go down like this!
A few moments later, Baruka launched himself with all his might against them, moving at great speed to make sure his attack was accurate. But when he looked up to see his enemies, he could only watch in shock and fear as Goku was already in front of him, ready to defeat him once and for all. And a second later, Goku delivered a strong punch to Baruka's stomach, making him cough up blood from the impact and killing him instantly. After Baruka fell, the portal they had entered through finally worked again, giving them the option to leave the place.
If what you've told us is true, Goku, then the real culprit behind the attacks on our world is someone other than these creatures. Do you think he could be a god or something? I don't think just anyone could be in the minds of so many creatures from different dimensions. Could be, but at least that would make things more exciting for a change.
So, what should we do now? We should probably split up again to find portals as peculiar as this one.
You may be right, but there's also something important we need to do to get to the bottom of this.
After saying that, Piccolo turned his gaze towards Goku, as he was surely the only one who could get to the person behind the appearance of the portals.
Goku, you were given that system for a special reason, so you must not stop leveling up. Surely, at some point, whoever gave it to you will come back.
If you say so, Piccolo, then it must be true.
Alright, I'll keep leveling up as much as I can. We won't let the person behind all this get away with it. Although you'll miss out on the fun if I find them first, Kakarot.
We'll see about that, Vegeta. Once they agreed on that, they all resumed their way out of the dungeon, since the exit had returned after defeating the boss there. However, Goku stayed a little longer to see if he could try to extract Baruka's shadow, as he could learn something more from him now that he wasn't being controlled by that voice in his head. But at first, it was futile, as Baruka didn't want to join Goku's shadow army. However, due to Goku's superior power, he ended up recruiting him as one of his shadows under the same name. In addition, the system gave him another reward, which was the ability to be more agile in combat. The system also gave him a blessed box, which provided him with a random reward. This time, the box gave him another key to another special dungeon, which seemed similar to when he faced Cerberus. Goku's goal was clear. He planned to go to that dungeon as soon as he left, as he needed to level up to find the one who manipulated the portals and bring them to his world. After this, Goku left the snow dungeon to resume his journey as well. The rest of his friends had already left to tend to the other portals in the world, so Goku had to get going as well. Alright, it's my turn to level up to finish this, Goku said as he looked at the key he had just obtained, only to then fly off to the place where the system told him to use the key. When he finally reached the designated place for the dungeon, he didn't hesitate to activate the key to make the portal appear. And once the portal opened, Goku entered right away, encountering a place that seemed to be filled with demonic creatures. But to quickly finish off those enemies, Goku quickly summoned his two strongest shadows, namely Icarus and Baruka, who were empowered by sharing Goku's fighting power. But Goku also stretched out his arms, as he also wanted to fight against that army of demons. And a few seconds before the big battle, Goku just said a few words. "This is just the beginning."